My name is Scarlett, and I want to share a story with you about why I've come to despise video games. Back in high school, my dream was to meet the perfect guy and experience my first true love. So, I was always on the lookout for that special someone. However, finding the right guy proved to be quite a challenge. The boys at my school didn't exactly fit the bill, and considering that I'd known them since we were in diapers, I couldn't even fathom dating any of them. So, I ventured out to other schools in search of the handsome, perfect boyfriend I had in mind. But I had this fear that I might fall for someone without really knowing them and end up utterly disappointed. That's when I decided to take a drastic step. I chose to isolate myself. I began skipping classes, showing disrespect to my teachers, and even started fights at school. All with the intention of getting expelled and forcing my parents to transfer me elsewhere. And that's precisely what happened. My parents couldn't find another suitable school in our city, so they enrolled me in one that was far from home. Each morning, I had to endure a grueling journey involving 4 different buses. Needless to say, my parents were furious with me and stopped providing transportation to my new school. I couldn't exactly tell them I transferred just because I thought the boys weren't good-looking enough at my old school. So, I braved the daily bus rides to get there. On my first day at this new school, I was assigned a locker. When the bell rang, I closed it, and as I walked away, I ended up bumping into a guy, just like in the movies. And guess what? He was incredibly good-looking. He casually said, "Whoop, be careful," and flashed me a charming smile, followed by a cute little laugh, before heading to class. I couldn't believe my luck. He was an instant crush. I walked into class, found an empty seat, and settled down. The teacher eventually arrived and asked me to stand up and introduce myself, which I did without hesitation. But then, the cute guy from the hallway strolled into class, fashionably late. My lucky day continued. He was going to be my classmate. The teacher allowed me to sit back down, and as I made my way to my seat, he bumped into me again, playfully saying, "Whoop! I did warn you to be careful." I felt a rush of shyness as I apologized and took my seat. It was my first day at the new school, and I couldn't concentrate on anything except him. I was convinced he was doing it on purpose, which made me even more nervous. So, I decided to try and ignore him. After the class, I headed to the cafeteria, and there he was, approaching me. I had a hunch he'd bump into me once more, so I sidestepped just in time. With a grin, he teased, "Whoa, aren't you enjoying our cute little bumps?" I responded with a chuckle, saying that I was, but I wasn't sure if it was due to my clumsiness or his intent. Without missing a beat, he extended his hand and introduced himself. "I am Julian, nice to meet you." Nervously, I replied, "I'm Scarlett," and that's how it all began. Julian and I started spending our lunch breaks together. On rainy days, we'd head to his house to do homework. He introduced me to a game he'd been into lately, PUBG, and I must admit, I had a blast playing it. Soon, we were meeting up after school to do everything together. Homework, PUBG, and even working out. I couldn't believe how close we'd become, and I felt incredibly lucky to have such an amazing guy by my side. One evening, Julian and I were in his room, locked in a fierce PUBG battle. As we celebrated our chicken dinner victory, we were both so ecstatic that it led to an unexpected moment, a kiss. He leaned in, and our lips met, but he quickly apologized. I reassured him, telling him there was absolutely no need to apologize, and, well, that's when he kissed me again. After that, being a gaming couple became a regular part of our daily lives, and slowly, word spread throughout the school about us. People often commented that we made a great pair and that our similarities made us special. We dated for 7 months, and during that time, everything seemed perfect. Then one day, I noticed Julian texting someone, and it seemed a bit suspicious. I decided to ask him who he was messaging. He casually mentioned it was his friend Henry, so I let it go, as I wasn't typically the jealous type. One night, I found myself bored at home and craving some PUBG action. I texted Julian to see if he was still awake, but there was no response. It was already 3:30 in the morning, so I assumed he was asleep. I decided to play a solo round, and when I logged into the game, I couldn't believe my eyes. Julian was online and already engaged in a match. While I did have his friends on my friends list, none of them were online at the time. It appeared that he was playing solo, so I chose not to make a fuss about it. However, I couldn't help but feel a nagging unease in my gut. To ease my growing suspicions, I began checking in on him every night, logging in to see if he was online. It turned out that he was online every single night, completely ignoring my messages while immersed in his gaming. My anxiety continued to escalate, and I decided I needed to confront him about it. The following day, I went to his house after school, where his mom greeted me at the door. She informed me that Julian was in the shower and suggested I wait for him in his room. I made my way upstairs to his room and noticed his phone lying on the bed. PUBG was running, so I picked it up and began comparing his friends list with mine. Everything seemed to match except for one name. I discovered a rather friendly chat conversation in the game with this particular person. Knowing Julian could return from his shower at any moment, I quickly put the phone down and laid back, waiting to see how he would react. As he entered the room, he casually greeted me with a simple "hey" and proceeded to dry his hair with a towel. He then went to his closet, revealing a set of pajamas he claimed he never wore in front of me to avoid my potential disapproval. Julian inquired if we had any homework to tackle, to which I replied in the negative. However, he suddenly adopted a colder tone and asked why I had come over. His unexpected attitude caught me off guard, leaving me to wonder why he seemed so distant and unenthusiastic about my visit. I didn't want to let my suspicions jeopardize our relationship, so I needed to devise a way to uncover the identity of the person he had been playing with in PUBG. The only solution I could think of was to check his phone while it was unlocked. One night, I informed my parents that I would be staying at a friend's house, using this as an opportunity to visit Julian's house while he was online and away. I knew he would be the one to answer the door, so I prepared a ladder in the backyard, knocked loudly, and quickly ascended it, slipping through his window into his room. As I had anticipated, his phone lay on the bed, still displaying PUBG. I cautiously retrieved his phone, carefully making sure not to lock the screen. My suspicions were confirmed when I saw that he was indeed playing with a mysterious person, a girl who also affectionately referred to him as Babe. To gather evidence, I recorded their conversation and arranged to meet her at a cafe the following day. I spent the entire night on the street, tears streaming down my face. The next day, I decided to skip school and rendezvous with the girl at the cafe in the afternoon. She arrived at the cafe expecting to meet Julian, and as I observed her searching for someone at the entrance, I realized it was her. Approaching her, I mustered the courage to ask how she knew Julian, determined to uncover the truth. She responded, puzzled, with, "Excuse me, who are you?" I quickly retorted, "I'm his girlfriend." "And who are you?" She introduced herself as Reagan, claiming to be Julian's girlfriend. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like a punch to the gut. My heart sank, and I simply walked away from the bewildering encounter. Upon reaching Julian's house, he noticed my tear-swollen face and began to inquire about what had happened and why I was crying. I managed to convey the shocking revelation to him, to which he responded with professions of love and urged me not to cry. I requested that he check on Reagan, as her nose was likely broken. In a state of shock, Julian stammered, asking how I had found Reagan and what I had done to her. With a tinge of irony, I remarked, "So this is how guys cheat these days, huh?" He retorted defensively, calling me a loser and confessing that he had only wanted me to help him with his homework to improve his grades. He explained that he couldn't afford to stay in high school for another year and justified his actions by saying I had dug too deep into the truth. Devastated, I collapsed on the floor and wept uncontrollably. News of our breakup quickly spread throughout the school, and one day, someone confronted me, inquiring about the reason for our split. After much contemplation, I decided to share the truth and let the rumor mill run its course. I disclosed that Julian had cheated on me with someone named Reagan from PUBG, cautioning others to be wary of potential deceit. Henry, Julian's best friend, approached me and whispered a surprising revelation: Reagan was Julian's half-sister from his father's side. I felt utterly perplexed by the conflicting claims. Why were they both saying they were dating? Could she be his stepsister? Determined to uncover the truth and confront Julian about his lies, I sought him out again. After school, I decided to go to his house and wait in his room. When Julian arrived, he initially insisted that I leave, but I stood my ground, determined to unravel the mystery. He told me to go because he had a girlfriend, and that's when I revealed that I knew Reagan was his half-sister. I demanded an explanation for his deceit. Julian was taken aback by my knowledge, and tears welled up in his eyes. With heartfelt sincerity, he confessed his deep love for me and how it made him feel incredibly possessive and jealous. He admitted that he couldn't stand the thought of me interacting with his friends, and even confessed to feeling violent towards any guy who merely greeted me. He acknowledged his obsessive tendencies and implored me to go away, fearing that he would hurt me. For some inexplicable reason, I believed his words, moved by the authenticity of his tears. Tears welled up in my own eyes as well. I reassured him that I would delete all his friends from my list. choosing to play only with him. I realized that I didn't need anyone else besides Julian, but I insisted that he work on his anger problem. Fast forward, Julian and I are now engaged. Having graduated together, love has a way of prevailing, even when it seems too hasty. If you feel it's right, don't give up, and don't let anyone come between you and the one you love.